Do you want to know how I set boundaries with senior leaders and clients without appearing unprofessional or uncommitted? In this week's episode of the 360 Leadership Podcast, I am sharing vulnerably and openly how I set boundaries. I like to call myself the Queen of Boundaries because I'm pretty good at boundarying up while also being super committed to my clients and my customers. So in this week's episode of the show, I'm going to be sharing exactly how I do it. Go and check it out. Hi there, and welcome back to another episode of the 360 Leadership Podcast. I am your host, Lucy Gernon, and today's episode is a special one because it's all about how I set boundaries with senior leaders and clients in a way that I believe enhances my professional reputation rather than damaging it. And I'm also sharing how 360 Leaders Club has been designed to help women like you to master these very skills. So if you're somebody who feels overworked, underappreciated, or scared to set boundaries for fear of looking uncommitted, I have been there. This episode is for you. But first of all, I wanted to give a shout out to another amazing podcast reviewer who left us a gorgeous review. And this says, a must listen to. The podcast offers so much great advice across a mix of real stories and topics that are varied and interesting. Amazingly, all of this content is offered totally free of charge. You are welcome. A must listen for anyone who is interested in developing their business and leadership skills. Thank you so much. And yes, I love to provide this content free of charge to you, but it's not free of charge to me because it takes a lot of time. I have to pay a team to do this as well. And we really can't keep up the quality of the show unless we have the support from our listeners. So all I invite you to do is just to rate and review the show, subscribe, follow it, sign up to our newsletter. I link everything in the show notes. You would really be helping us to ensure I can keep showing up here for you every single Wednesday, producing this totally free content. So let's get into boundaries. I used to hate boundaries. I hated conflict. I was a people pleaser. Can you relate? I didn't want to let anyone down. I didn't want to look unprofessional. Until maybe about 10 years ago, I burnt myself out badly. Maybe it wasn't 10 years ago, maybe 8 years ago. I burnt myself out really badly, and I realized that no matter how hard I tried to please or get everything done, I still didn't seem to get the recognition or the dopamine hit I think I was craving. So I kind of decided, right, I'm going to get super structured and I'm going to boundary up, as I say, and I invite you to boundary up as well. So let's talk about why boundaries matter so much for women in leadership. I talk about this all the time in 360, where we really emphasize that boundaries aren't just about protecting your time. They're about creating a space for you to lead strategically and effectively, thus achieving the goals that your organization wants you to achieve. And so time worked and hours put in does not equal results. And that's one of the principles that we live by in 360. So when you join, you get immediate access to my 10 golden rules for work-life balance. And one of them is the whole 80-20 principle. The other 9 are very important. You need to do all of them. But the 80-20 principle says that the Pareto's law, that 80% of your efforts produce just 20% of your results, and 20% of your efforts produce just 80% of your results. So what that effectively means is for 80% of your week, it's actually like not value add, right? So it's about really getting strategic and putting your big girl pants on and making it an empowered decision to set boundaries for the good of not only your organization and its growth goals, but also for your own health. Because as women, we often feel the pressure, don't we, to say yes to everything and to prove our worth by being constantly available and agreeable, being the good girl. You know, I've talked about the good girl syndrome before. But what I've learned is constantly overcommitting does not make you a better leader. Like, it makes you an overwhelmed one. And an overwhelmed leader is not somebody anyone wants to be around. It's not somebody who is going to be able to lead a team through crisis. It's not somebody who's going to even be able to hear the team when they're telling you the crisis is coming because you've so much on your plate you can't seem to take it on. And I love talking about boundaries, and I love supporting you to set boundaries. So that's the first thing, is that you've got to realize that it's really important for you to set boundaries, because leadership is about leading, and it's about you leading as opposed to you being the follower. Now, you might be thinking, but Lucy, how can I set boundaries when my boss is constantly pulling out of me and changing priorities and yada, yada, yada? Your boss needs you to set boundaries. In fact, so many of my clients in 360 have told me that their bosses now look to them for advice on how to set boundaries and how to manage their time because of the strategies that they're learning. And I told them this. I said, I promise you, once you follow the frameworks and the tools, and of course I'm there to give you personalized advice and hold you accountable and cheer you on, I can see that when you are strong and certain in yourself, and you have the leadership ability to lead yourself and to know the boundaries you have so that you can achieve the goals your organization wants you to, and your own career goals, you actually become an inspiration. You become a role model for others. So it's not only important for your health and for your wellness and for your bloody sanity, it's also really, really important so that you can actually deliver on those initiatives that your senior leaders want you to deliver on. So next, I want to talk to you a little bit about how I use strategic communication to set boundaries. Now, back in episode number 2, I did an episode called The Ultimate Guide to Setting Boundaries. So I invite you to go back and listen to that, where I teach you my 3-step framework called the DAD method, DAD, for setting boundaries. And it's really easy, really simple, and it just gives you a little framework to actually do it. But one of the biggest problems I notice with boundaries is you might know what to do, but it can be very difficult to hold yourself accountable to keep the boundaries, which is why there's me, which is why there's 360 Leaders Club. But what I do is, if I need to set a boundary, I'll say something like, if somebody asks me to do something or to meet, I remember I was a senior leader in a large organization, wanted to have a call with me one evening at 5:00. Now, I don't take calls at 5:00 in the evening. I've set my work hours and I just don't do it. And even though this contract, you might think I'm mad, was worth quite a lot of money, my health and my family and my boundaries come first. And you might be going, what? You're crazy. This is a great opportunity. What I've learned is that if you're valuable enough, and if it's meant to be for you, it will happen anyway. So in that particular situation, I just explained to this person. This person was very senior, someone I would have been like, oh my God, I can't say no to this person. I just said something like, unfortunately, I can't, support at that time because I'm focused on X, whatever it was. And that was it. And I said, but here's when would suit you. Here's the 3 times that suit me. Or even better still, what I try to do is I try to give a link to my own calendar so they can actually see my availability. And I'll always say, look, if this doesn't suit you, come back and let me know, because it's about trying to collaborate. And if I say yes to one person, that's a boundary broken. That means if I do it for this person, I'll do it for the next person and the next person and the next person. So I think it's really important that you get clear on your boundaries and communicate it in a way that is, coming across as you're not doing it just to be rigid. I was very flexible in that particular situation. I said, look, it just doesn't suit for whatever reason. So that's just something I invite you to consider, that even with potential clients, for those of you who were in revenue generating roles, I know you don't want to piss your clients off, but if they really want to work with you, and you are, you should never have to convince or sell yourself, sell your soul. I believe anyway, the right customers come to you at the right time. That's just what I believe. So for you, then you might say something like let's say you were asked to do something from your boss, a new shiny project that's come down. What I invite you to say is something like this: that sounds like a really exciting opportunity. However, my resource strategy for 2025 was linked to the company's strategic goals of X. So explain what they were. This request, it isn't in line with what our team are working towards, but perhaps you could, and then insert something helpful. which might be help me to reprioritize our strategic initiatives, or here's what I suggest we could do so we could do both. Or if it's another department or somebody asking you, you could just give a suggestion as to what other team might be able to take it. But remember, like, people aren't just asking you to do things because you are the best. And this is like, if you're multitasking, come back to me. Usually they ask the people who say yes. I'm sorry, but they usually ask the people who say yes. We all do, until you set your boundaries. And I think what's really important is you remember that boundaries are not about being rigid. I believe boundaries are, prefer to call boundaries collaboration guidelines, where you set the rules with your colleagues and your boss around your ways of working. So important, so that everyone gets to work, go to work, do their job as best as they can without absolutely killing themselves or missing out on their life. Okay. And now it's a subtle shift to kind of do this, to start to be a little bit more boundaried up, but it's incredibly liberating and it's incredibly powerful. And when you do it, like I said, it helps you to stand out as a great leader. And one of our members, actually, like in 360, she was worried about this particular person on her team. And what I love doing is giving, personalized support and training for our members when they need it. So I like to kind of think of it like on the job training in the moment when you need it. So instead of it being, very generic, where you might do a leadership development course, which amazing, by the way, absolutely do it. But what's different about 360 is you not only get the leadership strategies, you get the self-leadership, you're getting the mindset as a free bonus, you're getting all the tools you need to be more efficient. So it's kind of helping you with everything. But she said it was a really good win in our weekly wins. She had this conflict with one of her directors, and he really disagreed with her approach, and he really wanted her to do something that she really didn't want to do. And this particular director that reported to, I think my client is a senior director, I believe she is. And this guy was a little bit intimidating, and she kind of sometimes would like not bow to him, but that energy that kind of comes at you. But she asked for support around communication and executive presence, and we worked on that and gave her some power phrases. And she said that when she kind of spoke to him about the boundaries and she explained a little bit better, he literally said to her, okay, I can tell that you know what you're talking about, because of the way she explained it. And he literally changed his mind on the ask. And she said she used my power phrases to support her to set that boundary. So what's really important for you is just to remind yourself that communication and boundaries, like, they don't have to be scary. Something we talk about all the time in 360 is more effective communication, being able to say no, being able to lead yourself. So important. So again, we are taking on new members right now. And if you're interested in learning more, you can just reach out to me, lucygernon.com, or you can grab me on social media. And I can share anything, because it's really important, I think, isn't it, when you're investing in yourself, that you feel like it's a good fit for you. So always feel free to ask me anything that you want. So that's it for this week's episode of the show. Are you ready to go set some boundaries? Send me a DM on Instagram or LinkedIn. Let me know what is one boundary that you could set today that would make a huge impact for you. Think outside the box. Remember, you're going to make assumptions. You're going to have limiting beliefs that you can't do it. Remind yourself of last week's episode where we talked about the impact of not having boundaries. You don't want to be overwhelmed. You don't want to be exhausted. You don't want to get stuck on the hamster wheel. So set your boundaries, lovely lady. And whenever you are ready to move forward, and if you're ever looking for a coach or you want to work with me in 360, you know where to find me. So that's it. I hope that you enjoyed the episode. Short and sweet. I'm off now to go collect my kids from school. Mom duty calls. So until next time, same place. Bye for now.